What's going on, everybody? So today is actually a special request. This one's from my dad. So my dad is a big, huge fan of Chicago. Grew up listening to them. I think still his favorite band to this day, Chicago. So ultimately, I grew up listening to them as well. You know, this is a song that I've heard many times before, but it's also a song that I've never sat down and analyzed like I do with songs on this channel. So there are specific things my dad wanted me to listen to, but basically he wanted me to listen to Peter Cetera's voice. For those that don't know, Chicago, they kind of started off legitimately as a jazz rock band. So they had jazz and rock elements. You know, they have a horn section. Slowly but surely, the band shifted to kind of more of a pop music because of Peter Cetera's voice and how powerful and how beautiful it is. We're gonna listen to this today. This is Chicago, Women Don't Want to Love Me, and this is from their Chicago 7, I believe. So I believe this is all of the original band members still. So we got Danny Serafin on the drums, James Pankow on the trombone, Lee Loughlin on trumpet, Pete on lead vocals and bass guitar, Robert Lamb on the piano, Terry Kath on the guitar, and then Walt Parazater on the sax. So back when good old Terry Kath was on the band, was in the band. I for those who don't know the lore of Terry Kath, I suggest you go kind of research it. Essentially, he accidentally shot himself and died that way. Was basically like, look, the gun's not loaded, and then pointed at himself and pulled the trigger, and that's how he died. So tragic ending to a really talented dude, a really talented guitarist. So that's not what this is about. This is about this song. So we're gonna be listening to Woman Don't Want to Love Me by Chicago off of Chicago 7. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna say that I think that's actually keyboards with some like phaser on it. It's synth keyboard. And here's the guitar coming in. Before we get to the chorus, I really like those ad-libs. Hey! It's very subtle, right? But it adds so much to the song. What's unique about, at least the way Pete does his backup vocals, is a lot of people like to harmonize. He likes to do unison. And I think it works for him because it just brings forth those higher notes, you know, together. Because obviously the higher notes can sometimes be drowned out by the guitar, especially this guitar where it's kind of playing a funky tune in the higher strings, and the piano's playing with higher strings, right? But his voice with the trumpets, man, always sound great. It's kind of seldom that you hear a song where never hear a song where Pete's vocals does not go well with the trumpet or the horns. So let's keep going. That's an alibi. It's really cool, man. That sound Terry Kath got, he's always really good at coming up with these like unique sounds for the guitar in all the songs. And this is kind of like he's doing the wah pedal. For those of you who don't know, it's literally called that. It's called a wah pedal because whoever named it was lazy. No, because what it sounds like, wah, wah. But he has it. So when you go up, you're kind of closing that. Think of it this way: when the pedal goes up, you're kind of closing the amount of sound that comes through. So that's where you get that low, like wah, wah. When it's down, you're getting the higher pitch stuff. So essentially he has it kind of in the the higher portion of it. So that's why it sounds very low, very muffled. But he's still getting the wah sound because he's kind of going like this with the pedal. Very cool sound though for this song. A very unique sound. Not very many like jazz type of songs would you hear that along with the horns, and it goes really well. Maybe my dad could tell me, but I've never seen them do this song live. I've seen them a few times. They were my first concert, by the way. But I don't think Pete was in the band at that point. Great high note he hit there in the falsetto and that head voice. I mean, it's crisp, it's clear. He got the nice tremolo going. You know how much I love a good tremolo. But there's multiple ways you can do that kind of like slide in. Like he's using his voice as an instrument. He slid into that note. There's multiple ways you can do that. You can do it naturally with your voice, which is a lot more difficult than honestly just kind of coming back from the, further from back from the microphone and leaning in, right? It's kind of like doing that kind of thing. I feel like would be much easier, but I would not put it past him to be able to do that naturally. Let's hear that portion again. Into that grit too. Bass picked up now. I want you guys to notice too, we have the piano on the left and the guitar on the right. The piano and the guitar are never, ever, well, I won't say never. They're very seldom playing together. What I mean by that is when when wow on the right side, all of the open space on the guitar is being filled by the piano and vice versa. So they're never stepping over each other. This is all meticulated. This is all part of the jazz rock thing where everybody's kind of like almost soloing at the same time, but they're trying not to step on each other. Love me. Gets complicated. Start with what you know. Part the simple stated. Fill yourself with emotion. You earn yourself some devotion, and you grow. Go again. Interesting. So I'm pretty sure that's head voice, but the falsetto, he slowly melds that falsetto into a gritty head voice or chest voice, excuse me. So listen to this again, because he's doing the falsetto and then he goes into that grit. Amazing. This is opinionate. This is an opinion, but I feel like Terry Katz's solos very much so are chaotic in a good way, right? There's a lot of people, Pink Floyd being one of them or one of the bands, a bunch of other bands, a lot of studio musicians will go in and they'll have kind of an idea of what they want to do with the solo riffs they might want to add in there, how each note's going to kind of go into the next. And there's a little bit of that in this, but for the most part, I feel like Terry Katz kind of just feeling it, going with the flow. Like, okay, I'm going to be here. Here's the chord changes. I need to make sure I have some note that transfers over to the next chord progression, right? That's really it. And then he's just kind of riffing on it. I like that about Terry. And it's not like he doesn't know music theory. He obviously does, because he writes a lot of these songs with Chicago. So he has to know all that stuff. But I think it's just more fun, in my opinion, it is, to just riff and be chaotic and feel it instead of just have this meticulated, thought out, scripted solo. You kind of had the drums. You kind of had the drums and everything, and the bass and the horns all melding together really well for that whole solo too. And again, he never like turned off his distortion to make him be more in the forefront. He just went with it. He's got to have like, it's got to be like a flanger or a phaser on top of the wah too, because getting that like high pitched. That was an interesting little switch right there. It's like a little triplet polyrhythmic thing going on with the bass there. End here because four here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. End in 6/8. Really cool. That's the jazz rock influence, the jazz influence of the jazz rock genre. Like I said, I grew up listening to them, but when I was learning guitar, going to lessons and stuff, I played jazz. That's how I learned progressions. That's how I learned chord structures. That's how I learned, in chord inversions and things like that, was through jazz. So it was interesting to me at that time when I was going into my music degree and all that stuff to listen to Chicago and kind of apply it to what I have learned. And especially early on, Chicago had the really cool you know, like I said, chord structures and time signature changes and all this. They have a long kind of almost you know, full play worth of music called Ballet for a Girl in Buckhannon, which is really cool. It has a whole plethora of different songs mixed in. Some of their greatest singles are mixed into it, but it's a lot of this different stuff. There's changes, there's chord structure changes. I think that, I know they were big for a long time, Chicago, but I think nowadays there's not a lot of people who know Chicago. So that's one reason I wanted to bring to it. Plus, you know, Pops asked me to do it. So, but no, Peter Cetera still to this day is a really good singer. I think we saw him live in like 2011. I was youngish. It was a while ago, but he still sounded good then. My dad's seen him recently, said he still sounds great. He knows that he's a great singer. He's been a great singer for a long time, good performer. But I think he's one of those like unique, once in a lifetime type of talents when it comes to vocals, especially in that genre. So, you know, props to those guys. I think there's only like 3 of the original left in the band now, so they're not even really Chicago anymore, but they were definitely one of the greats when they were all together. The original were all together. So, and they had a lot of good pop songs too, in the like the mid 10s. You know, Chicago 16 and 17 were really, really good too. Yeah, man, if you haven't heard Chicago, get on it. Listen to like their greatest hits album, their latest greatest hits album. You'll hear a lot of gems in there. And some of the stuff I'm sure you'll be like, oh yeah, I know this song. So big impact on kind of the jazz and jazz rock, you know, bands after them. So, you know, Tower Powers, things like that. So in any event, that was fun. That was a nice run down memory lane. Thanks, Dad, for doing that one. But anyways, I really appreciate the love and support. If you guys like that breakdown and my reaction to that, there's going to be a lot of stuff like this on my Patreon. You can go ahead and support the channel that way. That helps the channel out a lot. You'll be able to actually request songs, and I will definitely 100% get to them if you are a Patreon. So if you want to request a song, make sure I get to it. Request as many songs as you want. There's no limit. You can do that on Patreon. I do appreciate the love and support you guys show me. Again, that's not required or requested, but it definitely helps the channel out a lot. I do appreciate the love and support. Thank you so much. And please do remember that good vibes are contagious.